Shit. Well, now we got to, even though she wasn't on the show, they showed a VTR of the injury, but we got to talk about Charlotte Flair. She's hurt. And did we? No, we haven't even talked about it at all on the last program. It's happened in between because we're talking about, no, it happened on Raw. So we talked about it on the last program. We've broken this news. We didn't break it. Am I gibberishing now?
Yeah, you've gone a lot of different ways so far here
Yeah.
at the beginning of this. We talked about the match, Asuka versus Charlotte. By the time we reviewed it, there was fan footage of an incident on the top rope where there was an awkward fall.
Yes.
And that hadn't aired on TV, so we discussed the injury and what we thought was potentially a serious knee injury.
Well, and now we know that it is and what it is. Apparently, she not only tore her ACL, but also did she tear her PCL or MCL?
I want to say it was MCL.
MCL, told her MCL. Yes, she tore her MCL, and also apparently, and the meniscus, which is cartilage, tore some cartilage. But if you tear a ligament, most of the time you're going to fucking tear some cartilage too. And apparently even rattled her neck and or head with that whiplash effect on the way down. But the knee injury is what is serious, and that's the ACL is at least 6 months for athletes. And somebody that does the athletic stuff and the moonsault off the top to the floor and etc., probably longer than that, because the ACL, the anterior cruciate ligament, that's the big one. That's the one that's most damaging especially for athletes. And the MCL is the medial collateral ligament. And that's, if it had just been the MCL and nothing else was damaged, she could have actually probably the therapy and you could get by with that, or at least you could in the old days. They might still, want to fix those these days. And, the cartilage is not that big of a deal. It's just the byproduct of the extent of the damage from the ligaments and the knee going in ways that it's not supposed to fucking go. 80% of the ACL injuries or more happen when your leg is straight and it is hit or clipped or bent to one side or the other that it's not supposed to go, instead of forward and back, side to side, and that will snap your ACL. And the MCL, if I'm not mistaken, because Bobby Eaton had this, he did the rocket launcher on a shitty hard ring in Columbus, Georgia, and instantly sold his knee, and he went to the doctor, which that meant that it actually was legitimately serious. And the MCL, they explained, a lot of times happens in car wrecks when people are sitting and they're thrown into the dashboard and their knee is bent back too far, right? So all those things happened to her. We saw that bump, and then they played, because it was in the commercial break. The fan footage is what we saw, but they played their professional footage on SmackDown. And when she was jerked forward, first her legs hit the ropes, so that could have whiplashed her leg to the side and torn the ACL. But then she was buzzsawed back into the ring, where it looked like she either landed on her kneecap or with her leg. Remember, I said her leg under her, but on her kneecap, I thought it might have dislocated her knee or whatever. But if she bent her leg back, that could have been that. But she was whipped in so many different directions that I don't think we'll ever know what did what unless she was to sit down and walk you through it. Like, yeah, when I hit the rope here, that's when it fucked up my ACL. And when I fucking landed here, that's what, elsewise but it's just fucking brutal.
We talk a lot about it with AEW because they typically have a lot of people get hurt, it seems like, from a lot of the things they do. This wasn't a completely crazy, outrageous spot, although still you have to question how necessary it was. This goes, I guess, to the bigger discussion about the wrestling style that everyone's working. And You have to ask yourself, is it really necessary? And at some point, there has to be a recognition that these injuries piling up the way they are isn't helping. Now, look, it's a different world, too. Wrestlers train differently now than they did then in the past. There's more wear and tear because of the training. I don't know how many people want to acknowledge that. It's not like you could just go out there and lift all the weights you want as long as you want. There's going to be no damage to your body from that. It's not taking a bump, but it's still damage.
Or they don't spend as much time as they used to on reversing hammer locks. They go straight to the fucking suplexes.
Straight to high spots during commercial breaks. What's the point of that if it's a television show?
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. In all honesty, we don't know what they were going to do. And maybe it was going to be a deal where they fought up there, and because they were about to come back from the break, so they may have been going to set up for something. They knew when they were coming back, and you would see it on television. But it wasn't in the scope of what we see these days. It wasn't preposterous what they appeared to be trying to do. They're probably going to do a superplex or some shit, or a hurricane run off the fucking top rope. But remember, I said just. So many people have to fight gingerly on the top rope for so long. It's a buzzkill to begin with. And too many people try to come off the top rope that's only 18 inches from the second rope that is exponentially safer. But point is, this was not a move that hurt somebody. This was a fuck up trying to do a move that hurt somebody. We see so much of not only AEW, but these independents where they actually do the fucking move and hurt people or knock them out on camera. They didn't even get to whatever they were going to do because they couldn't stay balanced on the rope. And Oscar, as she's falling backwards into the ring, she pulls Charlotte, who took the guy. And somebody said, well, it was Charlotte's fault. If you get jerked off the top rope enough that you're doing a fucking flip and catapult yourself off the goddamn ropes at that speed, somebody pulled you. I'm sorry. It wasn't like Charlotte was going to fall backwards out into the goddamn cavernous arena. She went right on top of her. So they were holding on to each other, and Oscar fell backwards, whatever.
But again, the bigger conversation about the style, and again, I'm not blaming Oscar, I'm not blaming Charlotte. It happened here, but if that move they were setting up from the top rope, if we're going with the idea that caused a good portion of the injury here, if that wasn't there, would it have hurt the match?
No.
If you had done something in the ring instead to continue the storytelling without the excessive physicality for a Friday night SmackDown main event, would it have hurt the match? Big E broke his neck on this show. Remember Ridge Holland belly-to-belly suplexed him on the floor? And it was one of those things, why are they doing that spot here? It's awful this happened.
Dusty Rhodes, if somebody was willing to take that bump on the floor, and we didn't have pads back in those days, from Magnum TA with his belly-to-belly finish, Dusty would have made an angle that people would still be replaying today of whoever it was getting fucking belly-to-bellied on a concrete floor, carried out, coming back to get it, whatever the fuck. It would have been replayed to this day like the scaffold match bump. But instead, they did it in a fucking TV match, and he was out for a year and a half or whatever. He's still been out. So, yes, a lot of this stuff, it's fine you're trying to do it, but let's err on the side of safety, just for a spot to come back out of the fucking commercial break. But anyway, so they're saying 9 months, and she's a freak athlete, but she's also made a career out of doing a backflip off the top rope and landing on her feet on the floor outside, which is fucking 9 feet or whatever it is. And, that's going to be hard to regain that level of stability from this getting fixed in that amount of time. And that's only one of the many things she does. But, and that's the thing. She's done that move in every match. Probably twice a week, whenever she wrestles for the last 10 fucking years, and never been injured. And she's just getting up on top to do a fucking whatever the fuck. And she's got her goddamn legs destroyed.
Hey, there's got to be wear and tear. You know, Randy Savage did that axe handle to the floor for years. That wasn't a moonsault going backwards. That was just an axe handle to the floor. Sometimes he didn't even jump up. He just kind of went down. That killed his knees.
Yeah, well, plus then he weighed 100 pounds more than she does, which helps also.
Maybe not in 79.
Well, he did have his he did have his rangy period, but he was still. I mean, he was cut. He was deceptive, but he was goddamn. When he was training for the bodybuilding contest, he was still over 200 pounds. It was only in the baseball days that he was. He looked like Jimmy Valiant after Jimmy became a vegetarian.
No, I saw those early photos of him wrestling in Daisy Dukes. He was very, very skinny, but
yeah.
Get well, Charlotte Flair. We hope you get well and come back soon.
Yes, please, because gee, Manelli, we're going to be seeing more of all
Shotzi.
The rest of the girls. Shotzi. Well, speaking of which,
someone posted the other day on Twitter. I wish I could give them credit. What they say, Shotzi looks like she just smoked an Acme cigar and it blew up in her face. And it was a picture of her with her current hairdo and she had like dirt on her face and stuff.